Hello, everybody. Welcome to what is the ENFP show. Although today's show is going to be valuable for you pretty much no matter what type you are. If you're an INFJ, INFP, it's going to be perfect because what we are talking about is the cognitive biases and the mistakes we make that end up getting us stuck. Now, before we do, a little life update, a little chit chat, all the stuff people on podcasts seem to do. I am having a wonderful day. Now, you might think me spilling water all over my laptop and delaying the start of our recording by like 45 minutes would be bad. But actually, one of the things I realized, having only actually, I think one other time spilt all over my laptop, is just how crazy calm I reacted. Like me 2 years ago, the heart rate would have went up. I would have been like, making a big... I literally just turned it off, wiped it down, turned it upside down, took it over, put it in the sauna, turned the sauna on for a little bit. I figured that'll dry it out quicker or make the damage worse. And then, dug my old laptop out of storage and got it going to continue. And that's something for anyone who's been following for a long time. I used to have, I wouldn't say I had a issue with anxiety per se, but like high stress, that like type A personality, which you could say is anxiety, but anxiety is not really the right word. And it's something that I worked on, I guess, going back like 3 years ago, something like that. And much more cool as a cucumber now, which is very nice for your health and for life and all that. The second thing is I discovered there are surf camps in West Africa because I want to go somewhere in October, like fun for a few weeks. And then actually I just booked my accommodation. I'm going to stay in this kind of hotel type place in Valencia for November. But I wanted to go somewhere that's more like vacation, that's more fun. And I've been wanting to learn how to surf forever because people would assume I do based on like, oh, you lived in Costa Rica. Oh, you lived in Portugal. Like at some point I should have learned how to surf. And I've also, the two good places I found are either in Ghana or Senegal, which are two places I've wanted to visit. Anyhow, so it's like a no-brainer. I'm going to check those out and then maybe go there like late October.
Awesome.
And yeah, it will be a fun place to be allergic to peanuts. When you look up like West African dishes, there's the local food. It's like peanuts with peanut sauce, peanut flavored peanuts. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to find an apartment with a kitchen and just eat cheese and steak the whole time. What's going on in your life? Actually, we just met up yesterday and the day before.
Yeah.
So we've been planning the show.
Well, as you know, I'm going to this amazing road trip tomorrow. We're gonna drive to Montenegro through Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, passing all the beautiful places, and we'll spend a week in Montenegro there and go back a week later. So I'm very excited. I will meet up with my friend it's my best friend, and we haven't seen each other for like 2 or 3 years, and we have constant calls. Like we call each other every week, and we
awesome.
always chatting because she's stuck in Moscow now. So yeah, I mean, we have to figure out the ways to meet up somehow.
Yeah. So can Russians go to Montenegro now?
Yeah, they always could because it's not
kind of a
the
money laundering hub for Russia, so it makes sense.
No, Cyprus is.
Cyprus, that's true.
This is the place we also go quite often. No. I mean, because it's not the European Union, so, but she's flying through Turkey or Azerbaijan and places like that.
Nice. Yeah, Mila's trying to figure out, she hasn't seen her family in I think almost 5 years. So she was trying to, see where they can do. But I don't think she knew about Montenegro because that's actually kind of
it's awesome. Yeah.
It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
And it's not that expensive, and it's nice, and it's still warm. So yeah, could be an option.
This is, I haven't had a car for, I don't know, 15 years or something, right? With travel, I just never made sense to me. And Prague is a city I would never drive in. Like actually this last couple months, we've rented a car for road trips and I get very like, I just don't like driving in Prague. I think Czech
Yeah.
drivers are awful. They're angry. But they're angry and not good. Like I'm cool. Like I've driven all through Panama, Costa Rica. Like I'll drive anywhere, but I like
Yeah.
uh I'm good with chaotic driving, but just not angry. Like Czechs will just honk all the time, but they're in the wrong and like the whole thing. So but the thing that's made me start looking at cars, and probably, as I told you, next year, like look at getting some kind of road trip car, like a convertible or something, is just like I love road trips. And from Prague, like I guess Montenegro's maybe 15 hours or so.
Yeah, something like that.
But like the places you mentioned, like you go south from Prague, you're now in Vienna,
Mm-hmm.
Austria. You go through the Alps. You can be, I think, 8 hours. You're on the Italian coast, like at Venice,
Yeah.
basically. Go north, you're at, the Baltic Sea, I think, in 8 hours through Poland. Like the amount of places you can wake up in the morning and then drive to, and if you're willing to do a few days, like, so it's very cool on the road trips.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
beautiful. Does Mila has the driving license? I think it
no,
would be
she
much
she
easier to,
wants to
yeah.
get it. It's on the to-do list. Um, but yeah. So on to our show.
Yeah.
So the theme of the show today, because we were meeting up in person these last few days, we decided to more plan the show rather than the bit of the organic feel of some of the past episodes of, asking kind of random questions or taking things from here. And so we're planning the show under the theme of why you get stuck. And specifically, it's looking at 4 cognitive biases and then one just mistake people make that end up leading to getting stuck. Now, this can be in relationships, in a job, in life overall. Like, whenever you're in a place where you think this is not where I want to be, and you know that, but you've been there for like a week or a month or like 36 years, and you haven't made that move, these are some of the reasons for that. And actually, it's an easy topic for me because this book I've been working on for the last couple years is all about this, like why we get stuck, essentially. And so I've been like going through this research forwards and back. Um, Hopefully, don't make any mistakes as I go through kind of off memory on it here. That would be embarrassing now that I've said that. And what a cognitive bias is, if anyone doesn't know, is basically there's over 100 of them now that have been documented in psychology. They're essentially flaws in how we think. So if you want to imagine that you're a rational thinker and you would make the right decision, like investing or planning your life, turns out there's well over 100 biases or errors in a way in how we process and how we think that hold us back from actually making what you could say is like the rational decision.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's business partner and one of the greatest investors of all time, has multiple speeches on this where he says it's like cognitive biases are the reason people are bad investors. And if you want to study anything, study psychology to be an investor. Um, and so we want to go through 4 of them that tend to keep you stuck. The one I would like to start at, as I look at my notes and randomly choose one here, is around effort justification. When I was in college, there was in the house I lived in, there was one of the roommates there, and I remember he started seeing this girl, and he kept like she'd come over and she'd bring him food or like clean his room and like do all these things for him. And I remember like thinking, wait, you're kind of wasting favors here. Like in my mind of sort of fairness, like,
Mm-hmm.
you do something for someone, they do something back, right? I'm like, aren't you going to kind of use up all your credits? Like if you keep getting her to do things? And he explained in a very, college guy sort of way is like, no, no, no. When women like invest in you, they're more committed to you. Like the more she invests, the more she's going to be into me. Turns out totally right. I don't believe he was even taking any psych classes. So this is what's called effort justification. The more effort we put into something, the more we value it. So if you if you buy a rundown apartment and you restore it yourself, in your mind, it will be much more valuable than the market would value it at. And you'd be much less likely to sell it, right? Vintage, even like the aspect of like buying vintage clothes that you had to hunt for, right? And then you found this. That would be like a
Yeah.
small example, right? Anything we put effort into, we value a lot more. It kind of makes sense. And with the aspect of like I was telling you, I bought this vintage leather jacket the other day at Mila's
Yeah.
like insistence. Valuing that because it's kind of a nice story you found at whatever doesn't really do you any harm. If anything, it can make your life better because you can actually spend a lot less money, be more of a minimalist, and value what you have much more because there's a story to it, right? Um, so that part is super cool. Spend less money, value the things, like feel richer and feel like you have better things without spending the money. But the problem is if you meet someone like that guy and you're like investing in effort justification, right? You're investing in that way. Think about the main things people get trapped in: relationships, maybe living situations, and jobs or careers.
Career, yeah.
Well, a lot of the jobs, especially for NF types, the jobs where people get stuck and they're like, this is not right for me, often had a big financial and effort commitment to get into them. Law school, business school, medical school, etc. Right? So, and if you're an ENFP and you made it through law school or business school and it's not for you, like there are ENFP lawyers who love it. Actually, one of the guys, Tim, who's coming to the event, is that. Like, he loves law. He's super happy. But for a lot of ENFPs, it wouldn't be the case, right? Law school is really hard. I think half of the reason law school is so difficult, and a lot of my friends like went through law school, is effort justification. They figure, hey, you're gonna like being a lawyer kind of sucks, especially if you're like a corporate lawyer, but you've worked so hard to become it. There's no way you're gonna quit it, right? And it's the same thing with like a relationship, right? You've put in effort. The funny part with it is, by this bias, the crummier your relationship is, the more likely you are to value it just within this bias. So if you have a great relationship where you're like, you just have perfect chemistry and everything works and it's wonderful, you don't have to put in a lot of effort. So
Right?
yeah, consciously you'll value it because you're a smart person and you'll think, yeah, this
Yeah.
is a great relationship. But if you have a like relationship where you had to really work and you went through so much counseling and like you constantly had fights and breakups and then got back together, you'd actually be like, well, I put a lot of effort into getting us here, right? And making this work. So you would value it more and be more likely to stay in it. Thing to be careful of for everyone is just note. So the way you counter most biases is basically awareness of them. So if you find yourself saying like, I can't, I worked so hard to become X, then you've got to catch. Like, that's a red flag that is effort
Mm-hmm.
justification, right? If you say we've put so much effort into making this marriage work, it's like, that's a sign that
Yeah.
that bias is influencing you. So you just sort of have to like try and consciously take it down a peg. Now, the next bias that really messes with people when they're trying to find something new, whether it is a relationship or a business or new career path. And for most people, when you want to make a change, there's two parts of it. One is, where I'm at isn't very good, right? Like, I'm not happy with this. I'm not feeling good about it. The second is, there's a better option. Because if you're just like really unhappy, like imagine you're like, I don't like this apartment. It's kind of whatever it is. And then you look outside and there's just like pits of lava and like spikes and grizzly bears running around. You're like, you know what? This apartment's not so bad, right? But if you look outside and it's just these like 20-foot high ceilings, luxury apartments, whatever, you're like, wow, my apartment isn't very good. So this is called the availability bias. And the availability bias is that we tend to think about things that are more recent, and this isn't, there's also something called the recency bias. But basically, the availability bias is we tend to like pull out examples and think about things that are just easy for our mind to know about because they're available. Said another way, like what's always around us, we kind of just assume is how the world works. So, to give you an
Yeah.
example, let's say you have accountant, right? and they are thinking like, I don't like being an accountant. I've always wanted to be a baker. You know, they're working in Toronto, Canada, and they're like, I want to move to France and be a baker. But in their mind, most people they know are accountants. Being a baker is like some superhero dream or something. Like, how many bakers do they know? Because they went to accounting school. They work with accountants, right? So when they imagine what the options are, they're like, oh, it must be really hard to become a baker. I don't know how many, it's a very rare thing or whatever. And being an accountant must be quite easy because all these people I know are accountants, right? I actually looked this up for the book. I might have looked up lawyers, not accountants. But I think in both cases, it would be the same that, like, in France, there are more bakers than there are lawyers. But I'm sure in America, that's probably not the case, right? But you would not think that. Like, if you were living in America, you'd be like, how many bakers do you know, right? As a profession. Unless you're a baker, then you probably think it's like a pipe dream to become an accountant because you just know one accountant. The availability bias, like, it plays a big role, especially if you combine it with other biases. I'm not going to like fully get into them, but there's things like the survivorship bias, which is basically if you look at 90-year-olds, you'd be like, oh yeah, they have good genetics. It's like, yeah, because the ones with bad genetics died at like 60 or 70. And it's the same where, like, let's say you go to an event for everyone who's owned a business for more than 20 years. All those people who failed earlier wouldn't be at that event. So you're seeing a very limited pool of entrepreneurs who are going to have probably special traits that allowed them to get that far. So an example that I think about is if you go to business networking events for like new entrepreneurs, right? You might go to them and be like, there's not really any successful entrepreneurs here, right? Like, I don't know, everyone's starting out, or they're like trying to sell me some multi-level marketing crap, or like, what is this? But it's because like the successful entrepreneurs aren't going to like beginner entrepreneurship networking events, right? Why? They're
Yeah.
busy. They're either doing their business or they've learned what they need to learn, or they're in more of like a high level mastermind group or something like that. And same with, if you work like a normal job, I don't know, you work at a call center or a bank as a bank teller. Well, if you ask everyone should I start my own business? What are the odds of succeeding? You look around, like, you're not going to see any successful entrepreneurs who are also bank tellers. So in your mind, like, what's available to you is maybe some people who tried to make their own business and it didn't work, and so they had to take this job, or people who have never tried because they're maybe more, risk averse or have no desire
Mm.
to. So you're going to think, yeah, again, it will shape your worldview, right? You'll be like, this is not possible.
And how to deal with it?
Availability bias is probably one of the easiest, is that you change your influences. So you change what you watch, who you spend time
Mm-hmm.
with, what you read. When I was, let's say, starting out down an entrepreneurial path, I read so many autobiographies by entrepreneurs. And what that did was, in my mind, the time, like if you're, spending 10 hours reading a book every
Mm-hmm.
week, well, that's like spending 10 hours with that entrepreneur. So actually the availability, like, it was very quick for me to think of like, oh yeah, Ted Turner did this, or Richard Branson did this, and like, that seemed normal to me. I was reading so many books. And then now it would be, you can do more online, although online and entrepreneurship is scary because there's so many fraudsters and stuff. Like, I always hesitate to tell people like, yeah, like, go on Instagram and go like, how to start a business. Like, good luck not getting scammed on something. But yeah, networking groups, like, even though I said, you go to these events and there's not going to be a lot of successful entrepreneurs, you're still going to meet the odd one and you're going to gradually change your group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this was not meant to be self-promotional, but things like our ENFP Unleashed program, where you're in this community of like 300 plus, however many it is, like cool ENFPs from around the world, you're more likely to see other people doing interesting things and be like, oh yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
is possible, right? That is normal. Um, that's what's helped me the most, is just, yeah, connecting like with people doing interesting things. Like, for me, two of my good friends in Prague have well over 1 million YouTube subscribers. So when I think of like making a big YouTube channel, which is not really my goal with this channel, but if I just think as a possibility, it's like, yeah, that'd be easy. Or maybe not
Mm-hmm.
easy. I shouldn't say that because they're both like special people, but it doesn't seem like alien to me. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
seem this crazy thing because two of the people I spend a lot of time with do it. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's obviously very possible, right? Where, I don't know, becoming like a visual artist would probably seem more difficult to me, or like a performance artist, because I don't really know that many performance
Yeah, yeah.
artists. So that would seem harder than a YouTube channel for me just based on my influences.
Makes sense.
The third cognitive bias, and this is one I think a lot of people know, but I wanted to include it because it's very much worth reviewing, is the sunk cost fallacy. So this is most commonly explained with poker, and because poker players need to learn this. But the sunk cost fallacy is basically, and it's different than the effort justification, kind of in a nuanced way. The sunk cost fallacy is when we look at a decision we need to make now, like this moment, getting attached to the past decisions we've made and thinking of where we were at when we started. So, and it, like the example in poker, the way it works in Texas Hold'em poker, you get two cards, right? And the idea is with your two cards plus a total of 5 cards that will be in the collective, you make the best hand you can of 5 cards total, right? You pick 3 from that and yours and make a hand. And the first time you bet, you only see your 2 cards. So let's say you get 2 kings. You probably will win by statistics at that point. So you would put in a big bet. Then the 3 cards come down. And if the 3 cards are like 5, 6, and 7, all hearts, well, now you may not have the best hand. And if the next card comes down and it's 8, whatever, it's goes in the line. So now you have 4 cards in a straight, all hearts. Now, if anyone at that table has a heart, they will have a flush, which will beat your 2 kings. And if anyone at the table has a card on either end of those 4 in a row, they will have a straight, which will beat your 2 kings. So at that point, your hand is not a good hand. Like the odds of you winning is very low. But an amateur player is like, no, but I have pocket kings. Like I was going to win and I already bet. And it's like, yes, but the circumstances have changed, right? And you can even think, you could even think of this, with like politics. Now there's different peace deals trying to be figured out and all these things. And I think part of it is people have a huge, justifiably so, of course, but we get in these sunk cost things, right? Of like everything that's went into something. And sometimes you have to look like, what are the circumstances today? And that's what you're supposed to do to defeat the sunk cost fallacy, is you say, the decision I made before may have been the right decision then, but the circumstances have changed. So this happens like with finances when people invest. They buy a stock, and when they're buying it, it seemed really good. Like there were reasons they thought, hey, this is a good stock to buy. There's good reasons to have it. Then circumstances change, right? Maybe they buy an AI stock and then the government bans AI. So it's like, now it's not a good stock. But people won't want to sell it when it's went down because they think they're hung up on their past decision, right? So this is that, whether it's being in a relationship for a period of time or in a certain career, like when it comes to getting stuck in either of those, there's probably dozens of biases that actually add up. But with sunk cost, is part of it is sitting back and thinking like, would I date this person from scratch? Yeah, we met, when we were 26, and at that point it clicked. But when we were 26, we were both backpackers in Thailand. And now, like, he wants to go and settle down and get a white picket fence. And I want to do, travel the world painting. Well, would you meet, if you met them new and they said, hey, I want to settle down and like get married and have kids, you probably wouldn't date them, right? And so it's not to say you shouldn't in some ways value your past and what it means to build a relationship, right? There's a lot there. But to also have that as part of your decision making. The same thing with a career, right? Is it's thinking, okay, now that I know what I know about this career path, because when you're 18 and you're picking your major and you're picking your job at 22, you don't have a clue, right? So if by the time you're 30, you realize, like, whatever it is, right? Maybe you really wanted to work in tech and you realize that all these big companies are just full of BS with everything they say about wanting to better the world. And they're just like big tobacco companies, maybe worse. And you're like, huh. So when you were 20, you were like, yeah, these startups, they care about their employees and they have foosball tables and like, they want to make the world a friendlier place. And Google says, don't be evil and whatever. And then now you've been in them and you've been in the meetings and you realize, like, oh yeah, they're just about making money and power. And now you know that. Would you have chosen that job at the beginning? Probably not, right? So not just because you've chosen it in the past, doing your best to reset and just ask yourself, today, would I do the same thing? And then if the answer is no, that's at least like a light bulb where you have to explore it a lot more.
Spotting those biases and being aware of them in general is a very powerful knowledge. Be self-aware and ask the right questions.
Absolutely. The fourth one, and then I'm going to get into the mistake that especially ENFPs make, although I do think it applies to other NF types as well, but I think it's like, especially for ENFPs, because one of the big things I hear from ENFPs is about shiny object syndrome, right? I can't choose something. There's so much I want to do, how to choose it. And of course, I should mention, if you're an ENFP trying to figure out what to do, somebody wrote a book about it. So you should check that out. By the way, I was thinking about this the other day, just that I should say this at some point. Is if anyone's wondering, it's not so much a book about like what an ENFP is. It's more like, one of the readers told me that for him, it's like his business Bible, that it's helped him succeed in business more than any other book he's read. And it was really written to be, let's say, a guide to creating a unique, adventurous, exceptional life, specifically as an ENFP. You could probably so it's not just like, here's what an ENFP is or anything. It's more like an overall, kick butt in life book that, because I hate money, I made it only for ENFPs, so no one else can buy it, even though I could probably have just made it for everyone a bit differently. So the fourth one is, it's a bit of a mix of things, but I'll in terms of the bias, I'll focus it on framing. And framing is essentially however we frame a situation, set it up, affects what we think of it so much more. So if you frame something, like you set the criteria for an event or a conversation, that changes what people think going into it. It then changes what they will decide. It's one of the most powerful things that you can do, right? Imagine you're going to a party and someone tells you, this is going to be the craziest, most exciting party you've ever been to. Like, the coolest people in the whole city are here. It's going to blow your mind. And you get there and there's like 15 people in a living room. You're going to be like, wow, dude. On the other hand, they say, hey, it's just like a little get together with a few friends. It's just like a small thing. It would be cool if you come. We're just going to be kind of talking and hanging out. And you get there and it's like 15 people. You're like, this is a pretty good like hangout, right? Based on the initial framing of it, right? The setting of the expectations with it. And I was thinking about this, say, with taking the North American view on work, that, and this is not true like across North America, each individual family, but I think in many cases, needing to work hard, especially in your 20s and 30s, like if you can't make it to a parent's birthday party because you're like, yeah, I have tons of work, I'm getting ahead, I'm trying to get my future, that's acceptable. It's like, your mom or dad will be disappointed, but that's like, good. Oh, my son is so hardworking, right? And that is what is the frame, if you will, of the society. The frame is it's important to work hard and be successful, and it's okay to occasionally sacrifice relationships. Maybe you don't see your friends that much in your 30s because you're working really hard. And like, that's okay because it's important to succeed and get ahead and blah, 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 right? And if that's everyone around you, and you start telling them, hey, I saw this weird Dan guy on the internet who like doesn't have his phone on usually until 2 p.m. and like travels a lot. And, you know, some days works really hard, but some days works like 4 hours and whatever, and tells me I should do stuff that I actually love doing. In the frame of, say, typical American or Canadian society, you're going to get some weird looks. People might like see it as, oh, is this like, dude, you're trying to be lazy. You're trying to like get out of your responsibilities. You're whatever it is, right? Imagine, and I'm sure this exists somewhere in the world, but I'm just making an imaginary one. Like you had a village where just the values of that village was that relationships, friendships, and family come first. That anyone who works more than 4 hours a day is a lunatic. Like they're insane. And that anyone who tries to have more financial success than other people is, something's off with them, whatever it is, right? So imagine, like, you'd be in the same scenario reversed. Like, if you were born in that society and you were an ENTJ and you're like, you know what, I want to go work 10-hour days and I want to get ahead and I want to be successful. I can't make it to grandma's birthday because I've got, like, an important meeting. You'd be shunned. You'd be, like, looked at as, what are you doing? What's wrong with this person, right? And actually, I'm fairly sure there are some subcultures I can think of in that are that way, or some cultures that are that way. So it's very much about the social norms around us. Like framing can affect how we get stuck and make decisions in many, many ways. But the way that I'm thinking is kind of a novel way to look at it is just how our entire culture sets a frame that we then make the decisions from, right? Another example would be with marriage or relationships, right? If the frame is, and this is the frame in most places, like that a breakup is always negative. Oh, they broke up. Oh, it's such a shame. You know, they had 3 years together. Like they invested 3 years into that relationship. Such a shame. Or a couple gets divorced. Maybe even after like having children and raising great kids, and then the kids move out and the couple's like, the dude wants to golf and the woman wants to move to India and teach yoga. And they're like, cool, like, love you too. Bye. Like, let's part ways, right? That would be seen as a failure. But staying together, bitter, having sex once every 3 years, just barely talking, is generally considered like not a success. No one's saying like, good job, guys. Like, that's a happy marriage. But the frame is, wow, your parents were married 50 years, that's amazing. They stayed together. And like, there are these gem couples. Like I do know some who were married that long and like loved each other all the way. And when you meet those people, you ask them everything you can, right? Like I have someone in my extended family that way. And I'm like, you're the only one who gives me relationship advice. But for most people, like when they tell you their parents have been together 40 years or a long time and you say, oh, that's great. They always sort of say, like,
Yeah.
you haven't met them. Like they probably should have got divorced or something, right? So it's that frame. You frame relationships as being about growth and connection and the experience in the moment? Or are they about security? Or are they about status and what people think? Which, for a huge part of human history, that was most of the part of relationships. Families married their children off before they hit puberty so that they could like bond the families or increase, like, they didn't actually usually marry them before puberty, but like they set the partner, okay, my daughter will marry your son in 20 years and all this stuff, right? And yeah, so it's like what is a marriage? What is a relationship? What is it? And this is where it becomes really important. And this is like a significant part of this mystery book, is to then figure out like your values and your map. So you're not a victim to the random town or society or culture you grew up in that might have values that aren't aligned with yours. and therefore set the frame of how your life is. So it's like set your own values first. And then from that, you can set your frame and then make better decisions for what you want, which might involve some kind of a life change. So last up today is that mistake that I think ENFPs and some other people make that cause it to be very difficult to make a choice. There's a beautiful little passage. I think is it Sylvia Plath? I might be getting her, like, mispronouncing or getting her last name wrong. It's in a book. And that wonderful TV show, Master of None, also took it into an episode. What the passage is, and maybe we can end up putting it on screen or figure something out in the edit or something like that. But essentially, the passage is someone trying to figure out what to do with their life. And they're staring up at a fig tree. And each fig represents a different path to take in life. One might be moving to Asia and learning to surf. One might be getting married and having a nice young family. One might be moving to Italy and learning to cook. One might be like all these different paths you could take, right? And as the passage goes, I might not get it exactly right here, of course, but as I was standing there trying to decide which fig to eat, they all started going bad and falling to the ground. And by the time I was done, they were all withered and dead. And I mean, it hits
Yeah.
very hard for ENFPs, right? This idea that if you wait out too long and you choose nothing because you want to do everything, then eventually all your options dry up, right? I think it's a wonderful way to think of things. One of the things that I think holds back some ENFPs within that. Remember, if you're wanting to do something new, there's two parts to it. There's the where you're at, like being dissatisfied with your situation. If you are through the moon loving everything about your situation, you're probably not looking to change it, maybe just tweak it, right? So dissatisfaction, but you also need something that's really appealing that you're moving towards, right? What is your vision? What is your calling? What are you going to? I think in many cases, the reason ENFPs get stuck, and this is breaking news, this is a Breaking Dan theory right here. For anyone who's tuning in, this is not repeating an old video, is we have not found a juicy enough fig. So maybe when we were 20, we were like pie in the sky, big dreamers, but some things happened in our 20s. We got a little jaded or more realistic, which maybe helped us for a time, right? To like buckle down and be more realistic. But we've narrowed our ambition. And so now when we're actually more capable, maybe in your 30s or 40s, you actually have the network, the skills, the capabilities, the personal traits that would allow you to finally do something really big, but you've actually shrunk your vision and your ambition and are just like setting kind of easy goals for yourself. Like the figs are all like meh figs. So you look around and
Yeah.
think like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that too. I could do that too. Like all of these things are possible for me. And you can't choose one. And you can't choose one because none of them alone are enough where you'd be satisfied. So even though consciously maybe you've got a little more realistic and are setting your sights a little smaller, your heart still knows, like, I'm a badass. Like, I can do something huge. Like, I want to die a legend. I want to do something amazing with my life, right? And it's like, no, like, it's like, don't choose it. Don't choose it. Like, I need something more. I need, like, this boom thing, right? And so the solution is a juicier fig. And, for me, the vision I have for my next years, the reason that I've been able to commit to it and don't really see moving away from it is I've thought it through to the end. And at the end, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, if that's my life, good. Like, if I die and that's all I do, perfect. I'm good with that. Like, that would be an amazing life. And that's what you want to get to, right? With the fig. Because, yeah, if you have meh, so options. You're going to do what I did for many years, is like kind of dip your toes in and not really fully go for it, because you know you're capable of more. And all of us deep down want to be tested and want to know, like, what am I really capable of, right? You don't want to be on your deathbed looking back being like, there's a saying like, oh, he left it all on the field, right? The football player like could not have played another second. You don't want to be the opposite of like, that guy finished the game without breaking a sweat. Like, he could have played another 4 more games. Like, he could have ran another marathon, right? And none of us want that. We want to finish so satisfied. And yet, depending on what we've lived through, and most of us have screwed things up and had some failures and whatever, we're setting our sights too low. So, yeah. And that's something for anyone watching. I'm going to throw in some self-promotion here because, you know, because I can. It's our advertiser. I could be promoting some stupid vitamin or a VPN, and instead I promote that's one of the things that I'm really focused on with all my coaching, right, is helping people get that clarity. So anyone watching this, I do have a private coaching practice. I'm usually working with like 3 to 6 people at any one time, quite intensely. And so you can always go to dreamsaroundtheworld.com and click on the coaching link at the top if you're interested in that. That's our ad for the day. No more. So if you've made it this far to the end, what I would love to know from you is which of these cognitive biases like jumped out at you? And if you have a like personal story about it, how it's affected you or anything like that, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. I do read every comment and usually reply as well. If I don't reply, it's often because I just have nothing to add, or you've shared like a great long story and, I'll just give it a like. So would love to hear your comments below and catch you in the next episode soon.